Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, today I was just thinking how was I going to start this video. Here's an interesting fact you probably didn't know. Here on YouTube, my channel's monetized, right? And you in the thumbnail and in the first 30 seconds of the video, one of the words that I can't use, I could say recovery, because that's what I want to talk about today, but I can't say the other word, the A word. Seriously, I can't use it in the title, and I can't use it in the first 30 seconds of the video, or I won't be monetized. It sounds similar to, like, addition. It sounds similar to that. I can't use that in the first 30 seconds, so I was thinking of a way just to take up the first 30 seconds of this video. Anyway, there's going to be links down below. I came across a few articles today. Donald Trump is making plans for if and when he becomes president. He's in this article, I think it's in Rolling Stone. The links will be down below. I encourage you guys to read this. Another thing that, I'll be honest, it scares me. It frightens me. It does. I picture Afghanistan. He's talking to his lieutenants and drawing up battle plans for Mexico. True story. Because of the poisoning going on in our country. I've referred to drugs as poison before, but I don't refer to what's going on in this country isn't poisoning. I'm going to talk about how I've managed to stay clean and sober. A lot of times people ask me, that's incredible. Like I said, there's a cop that lives in this building, a Bristol policeman, and we both work out, and a lot of times I see the look on people's faces when I tell them I've been clean and sober for 16 years, over 16 years. And it's a look of doubt. They're like, that's great. But you can see after you talk to them for another 5 minutes, you can see that they don't quite trust me. They really don't. And I don't blame them, because recovery is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. I just went past 16 years and 5 months clean and sober. And I've had, I don't know, out of the last 7 days, I probably had drug dreams the last 4 nights out of the last 7. Seriously, it's still right there. It's still, I'm going to talk about one of the easiest ways, if I was to relapse, how I think it would happen. Because you have to think about these things. I'm going to talk about that in the later part of this video. First though, Donald Trump, the plans for Mexico. Okay, so basically, he's drawing up plans to go into Mexico, the borders, with the Army, Navy, Marines, the Air Force, Space Force, maybe. I wouldn't doubt it. Wouldn't surprise me. Seriously. And if you look at the wording of this, it makes it sound like, well, we're going to work as partners with Mexico, with the Mexican authorities. But really, they have no say as to our comings and goings and what we do at the border and going into their country. In other words, we're going to invade Mexico. That's Donald Trump's plans, because he thinks there was a lot of opportunities lost in the 4 years that he was president. Read the article, swear to God. Those are the exact words in the article down below. And this scares me, because I think of Afghanistan. What are they going after? Let me tell you that. What would he be going after? What's the biggest scare? Now I think 30 seconds have gone by. What's the biggest scare? The F word, fentanyl. Okay. Is fentanyl grown on a farm? No. It's basically manufactured in factories, like in China. Is there fentanyl farms? No. So if and when he invades Mexico, what's he going to look for? I could see him going through these towns and just kicking down doors of homes and businesses, looking for fentanyl smugglers, because there won't be any obvious signs. So, and these businesses that smuggle, or these people that smuggle, could be moved anywhere. Further south, down into Brazil, or Colombia, or Uruguay, Paraguay, Hawaii, Alaska, Canada. If you Google, I don't like telling you guys this, but it could be mailed here. It's easy to have this stuff mailed here. If you go to DuckDuckGo and just type in buy whatever, see what comes up. And I'll just leave it right there. It comes. I remember driving a truck in, I think it was Stratford, Connecticut. Stratford or Bridgeport, the two cities are right next to each other. And there was a raid in a shipyard. It was in Stratford or Stanford. And the DEA were raiding a shipyard. And I read, I saw the trucks and everything from the DEA and all the badges and all that as I drove by with my truck. And I read later that there was a metal container welded to the bottom of one of the ships that came in there that was filled with literally tons of cocaine. If you go back, probably this was back in the early 90s. There's probably still stories on it. I drove by there as this raid was happening. That's just one instance. What I tell you guys is, where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a demand, there's over, if you Google this, there's over 2.1 million just opioid addicts in the country right now in the United States. 2.1, and that was probably from a year or two ago. Over 2.1, well over 2.1. When I was an addict, I could easily spend $300, $400, $500 a day. Easily. 100 would just be enough to get me going for the day. I would, whatever money I could beg, borrow, or steal would go for drugs, for the drug of my choice, which was heroin. So you say $500 a day times 2.1 million people. I think that's a billion. That's $1 billion a day. $1 billion. $1 billion a day. You know what can be bought with that? I just picture Afghanistan and Iraq with roadside bombs and all that, and what that turned into. And then going into Mexico and looking for, I don't know what they're going to be looking for with this fentanyl, going after cartels. I imagine they picture like these big homes on a hill where these dons throw their birthday parties like in these movies or whatever, and they're going to raid these mansions up on hilltops and get all the underlings and have them arrested and thrown in in Cuba there. I don't know what he's thinking. It's I'm sure it sounds good to all the Trump supporters. It's like, yeah, finally they're gonna do something. They're poisoning America. No, they're not poisoning Americans. The Americans are addicted. Americans have a serious freaking drug problem. Where there's a demand, there will be a supply. I remember this. I remember going to California to it wasn't until the time I went to LA. The time I went to San Jose. And the day I landed, and I had a serious cocaine addiction, and I couldn't find any the first 24 hours I was there, I was looking, but I couldn't find any cocaine contacts or a meth contacts. In the first, I did find them, but not in the first 24 hours. That night, I was jonesing so bad. I went to the neighborhood convenience store and bought caffeine pills. This is a true story, and it's very embarrassing. I've never told anybody this. This is another story I've never told anybody. I came home with the caffeine pills and crushed them up and snorted them to stimulate the drug that I was craving. I swear to God. This is what happens. When you talk about Americans being poisoned, like it's being slipped in their coffee or their drinks or whatever. No, man. People are addicted, and they're actively seeking this stuff out every single day. It's what they think of last thing when they go to sleep, first thing when they wake up, and everything in between is based on getting that drug. They're being poisoned, but by their own volition, by their own will. Okay, I'm going to talk about relapse here. I think as I get older, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't like admitting this, but my sex drive isn't what it was when I was in my 20s. It's still sufficient and everything, but come on, it's not what it was when I was 21, and that has helped me stay clean. The fact that I'm an introvert, and I don't have a problem keeping people away from me. I don't need people around me. That's helped me stay clean. I'll explain why. There's a couple instances I'll describe. If I were to relapse, you have to be careful, like hooking up. If you going on dates, going to meet a girl or a guy or whatever, going to meet somebody you're dating for intimacy or whatever, because this will still happen when you're in recovery. This is the weakest point. The weakest point in my recovery, because you have to know what you're gonna do before you're in the situation. There's been several times where I've been walking or going through a parking lot or whatever, and people recognize me. People that were using, people that I used to use with. I remember one instance, there was like 3 guys in a car. Hey, Daryl, come on over, and it was early in the morning, it was like 8 a.m. And I knew these guys didn't work. And they were sitting way in the back of a parking lot with their car parked forward, 3 of them in a car, or 4. Come on over, and you got to know what you do before you're in this situation. I just said, hey, and I kept going, because once I got near that car, I knew what I was going to see. And at that point, I would just get weaker and weaker. You got to know what you're going to do before you're in the situation. This is especially true for me. It's with women. I have to be especially careful because, whoever you date, if you're a man, you date men, or if you're a man, you date women, or if you're a woman and date, whoever you date, you got to be careful because once you get in the situation, you get weaker. This is one thing I've learned. People, if you tell people that you're clean and sober, I found this out really quickly. The first month I was clean and sober. If you tell somebody else that's using, and the other person's using, if you tell them you're clean and sober, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, me too. Me too. I'm doing good. They're going to say this. I guarantee you they're going to use these 2 words or these 3 words. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a long time. Because I told you before, people they're still using don't remember, they don't have a clean date. They will use that phrase. I'm doing good. Doing good. No, doing good isn't the same as clean and sober. Now, see, this is where it gets dangerous. Just a couple days ago, there's a woman that I go by almost, I'd say 2-3 times a week in this neighborhood. I've talked about her in videos before. She calls me Legs, because I ride the bike, I have shorts on. She's flirting with me. And, I'm no Don Juan. I'm no Tom Cruise or anything like that. I know that. I just through my experience in using drugs, I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure, I see her in the morning, I see her at night, I see her attitudes change. Like I'll go by and she's all grumpy, I'll go by, she's yelling at me, hey Legs, come on. I know this, I'm 99% sure this person uses. Although I've never been close to her. I've just gone by her on the bike and there's a reason for that. I don't want to get anywhere near her. Once I get close to her and she says, hey, hey, you want to get, I'm clean too. I'm doing good. Let's go to my place. Oh, I don't drink. Come on back to my place. I'll get you some water. I'll get you some soda or whatever. Once you get in that situation, I know better than to let myself. People use you. People will use that lure of intimacy or sex to get you close to them. If they think you're clean and sober, they want to use you. How do I know this? Because I used to do it. Anybody that was an addict knows this. I used to do that. I don't like to admit it. I remember my friend who was clean and sober for 3 months, 3-4 months. He was dating somebody else from my high school. I went to high school with him, and he had fallen in love with this girl he went to high school with. And he was clean for 3 months, and he was doing great. And he went out with us one night, and he used a little bit, but I knew he had money because he hadn't been using. And he stayed with us for about a half hour, and he knew he shouldn't. And he was like, I gotta leave. I gotta go. I gotta get away from this. And I did everything in my power to keep him there. I kept trying to feed him a little more because I wanted to use his money. I wanted to use him. Addicts do this. Women will do it to men to lure them. Men will do it to women or whatever. Whatever you're, people will use you. And once you get close to the person, the closer you get to them and start talking to them and the intimacy and the ideas start going through your head, the more likely it is you're going to be used. I remember another instance in a convenience store. I was going in for my morning coffee, and a woman comes in a sundress, and it doesn't look like she has much underwear underneath. Gorgeous, slim little body, and she's with 2 guys. But they talk when they come in the door, I notice, and then the 2 guys go back to the car. And she comes over, and she's next to me at the coffee machine. And she's like, hey, how you doing? She starts flirting with me. And she said something about, do you party? You like to party? And I said, no, I'm clean and sober. I said, I like to work out. I actually said this like a geek. I said, I know, I like to work. I like to exercise. I exercise. She actually said this because she didn't know what to say. She said, well, exercising is kind of partying. And she kept trying to keep it going. You know, this woman, they were trying to use me. Like this woman that walks every day that calls me Legs. She was just sitting just 2 days ago. She was sitting on the side of the road and she was with a guy this time. And I went by and she started yelling at me, hey, Legs, hey, and waving me over. And like I said, I've never approached her. And there's a guy with her. And the two of them, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. They're not at work. You know, they're wearing sweatpants and hoodies and stuff. In their 40s, 50 years old. And the guy's like, he doesn't look like a typical boyfriend or anybody. They're sitting on the side of the road and he's like, hey. And I don't know him. And he's like, hey, all friendly. If you're an addict, you recognize this. These are people that think, they look at me and they sum me up quick. They could read me. They know there was probably a time that I did use. I got a bike. I'm wearing Nikes. I'm wearing name brand stuff. I got some money. I could be used. Addicts, well, you know this. If you're an addict, you know this because you used to do it. And once you're in recovery, you have to avoid this. It's hard. It's hard finding a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever your orientation is. You have to get to know the person from a long distance and be sure that they are clean and sober or they've never used or whatever. They're a real situation. If you go in for a hookup, a quick, you meet somebody in that day and you go back to a private place, you're setting yourself up for a relapse. Don't do it. Don't do a hookup. Don't do a quick intimacy thing. Because chances are, once you get in that situation, it's going to become a lot harder and harder to say no when there's a person that you're attracted to looking really good right in front of you, and then they pull out the substance that you're addicted to, and that's the quickest way for a relapse. If I was to relapse, that's how it would happen, and I know better. I know what to do in my head before it happens. I hope this made sense. Recovery is possible. I have 16 years, 5 months, and about 6 days. Have a good Thursday.